All right, so this is the first time this has happened in 37 episodes. The file got corrupted for the visual audio of this podcast, but still, please enjoy. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of the Bright Now podcast. We're recording this before the Tuesday Suns-Clippers game, April 9th, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. My name is Dash, and I am the Dos Equis to my Michelob Ultra. We're so white, we look like an Alaska tundra. TJ, how are you doing today, brother? And what are we talking about?
Doing good, man. Doing good. And great job on that second take right there. I just want everybody to know how hard. I just want everybody to know how hard you work to get these intros right. It's not just. This doesn't just come at once, ladies and gentlemen. This is in the lab. All right.
All right. This is like the third time it's happened in 37 episodes, probably, right?
Probably. No, you're right. You're right. I probably needed a second take on a few more things than you, but no. So. Breaking down, the Suns got 4 games left to finish this year, including the one tonight against the Clippers. You folks listening to this will probably know the result before we do. But, coming off a loss to the Pelicans, not exactly what we wanted. Doesn't totally kill us in terms of wins and losses in the standings because we do own that tiebreaker against New Orleans. But it still would have been nice to just build some buffer in, especially when you look at what we have to close the season. And speaking on that Pelicans game specifically, same problems we've kind of always seen. We had a lot of trouble stopping CJ McCollum. We just flat out couldn't allow it. He got 32 points. And then Zion, just a wrecking ball that a guy like that is just going to eat through our team. And that's kind of what happened against the Pelicans, it felt like. I don't know if you had any extra thoughts on how that went down.
Yeah, there was definitely some points that like hindered us from succeeding. Obviously, the CJ McCollum balling, Zion having 27, 8, and 7, a few blocks sprinkled in, especially a lot of clutch fourth quarter ones. I'll hit on in just a little bit here. But man, we finally got a game from Bradley Beal. He's been kind of stepping it up in this past month and a half. Had himself a 30 ball. But man, like you said, the same things continue to come on. We lost the Pelicans 113-105. And the part that really got me, I know we were down in that third quarter a lot. And we had that strong start in the first, came going into halftime down. But it was really when we were up one with 7:27 to go in the fourth. Like Zion just barrels it to the rim for 2. Turnover leads to free throws. Another turnover. We get a steal. Zion blocks us. Zion gets a bucket at the rim. Booker's trying to do what he can, but played a lot of hero ball in that fourth quarter. The thing that really hurt me, TJ, and this is a guy that we've talked about a lot this year, but Drew Eubanks had one of the stupidest fouls I've ever seen with 3:40 left in the game. It's the fourth quarter. We're down 2, and just straight up, they're coming down. Like the Pelicans are coming down, and he just like hooks Larry Nance and just like rips him for no reason, for literally no reason. Like Eddie Johnson on the call was going apeshit. He's like, now Drew, you got to recognize they're in the bonus here. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's absolutely right. And he has all the tools in the world. Eddie Johnson's talking about bro, look at the foul count right here. Look who's in foul trouble. Look what you're doing right here. They're in the bonus. And from there, it kind of just trickled down. We never got the lead from that point. We had more turnovers, more Zion fucking chase down blocks. I mean, in that last 7 minutes, we had 3 turnovers and 2 shots blocked. Just not a big fan.
Yeah.
Same shit, same smell, nothing different.
So I also bet with Eddie Johnson. He was trying to say it loud enough so Eubanks heard him too. That's the funniest part about it. He knew what was up. Because it is. It's just kind of bonehead plays like that where you're just not thinking about the clock and the score in terms of what you're doing on the court and how that really should impact the decisions you make. But you're right. Zion 12 points, 3 blocks in the fourth is absolutely insane. And Beal scored 15 fourth quarter points. I'm totally with you on the hero ball aspect. We've talked about it all year. That's just kind of how, when things start to break down, that's what we kind of go to. So you can't win them all. I don't think we both thought that we were seriously going to go 5-0 to close the season. But looking forward to those next 4 games, right? 2 against the Clippers, starting that first one tonight, and then it's a back-to-back, so we got them again tomorrow. And against the Kings, and then against the Timberwolves. So that really made me I just really had to kind of dive down into the different options of how this season could go. Even though, on the season, we're 23-22 against teams above 500, so basically 500 against them. So it's basically saying we're probably going to go 2-2 to close this season, which is probably going to keep us as the 6th seed. If we are able to win out, it presents a kind of an interesting challenge for the league, I think, because we'll be tied with the Clippers, and the next tiebreaker it'll ultimately go to record against the division. But because the Suns were in the same group as the Lakers in the in-season tournament and played them in the bracket play, we have an extra division game that the Clippers don't have. So I don't know how that factors in, if that one doesn't count, or how that's going to go. Because then from there, it just kind of breaks down further and further. It's like record against the conference, things like that. So there's a decent shot that we could still finish ahead of the Clippers, but it would require us going 4-0 and then to go 0-4, basically.
Yeah, and just off of pure stats and pure talent alone, I don't know if I really see that happening. But like you said, there's a ton of different avenues that this could go for us. We could finish as low as the 7th seed and get in that play-in position, or we could, like you said, pass the Clippers up. Is there any universe where you want to be a little bit lower? You're trying to avoid anybody, or just whatever we can get as high as we can?
No, and I was thinking that you were going to ask this and like bring it up. I think it's a terrible mistake, and it's like it's just like a failure of like your hubris and overconfidence to think that you can just cherry pick who you're going to play, and it's just going to be, you're going to be able to walk over anybody. Everybody we play is going to be very good. They're in the playoffs, and we're going to be the lower seed, so that we're just not in any position to try to pick and choose. We need to avoid the play-in, because above all else, I don't think this team could win a play-in game. I don't think if it really came down to like a single elimination that we would actually get the best out of these guys.
Ooh. That's kind of tough. I mean, even with our competition who we're going against in that 8th seed, are you nervous?
I just don't want to be there at all. Okay, just period. I just wouldn't have enough confidence going into that game. And the crappy part is, hopefully we can, in a great world, the great outcome is if we can just stay at 6 here. But you look at the teams chasing us, so it's the Pelicans, Kings, Lakers, and Warriors, who all 4 have a shot to still get into the top 6. And who they play to close the season is just way easier. Like the Pelicans finish with Portland, Sacramento, Golden State, and the Lakers. So there's at least some attrition going on with these teams playing each other too. But the Kings, they finished the season against Portland. The Lakers have a game against Memphis coming up. The Warriors play Portland and Utah still. The Mavericks, theirs is super. They go Charlotte, Miami, Detroit, OKC. So everyone else has an easier schedule than us, albeit going to, kind of knock each other out by playing each other. But it's just, we're half in control of our destiny. We control about half of it from now. So let's just take care of business against the Clippers is like really the main concern, right?
No, for sure. And just like how you were talking about, those teams that we're going to go against are going to be teams that we're directly competing with. I mean, the Kings are hungry. I mean, they're not no slack. Even with missing Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, I mean, they still have the ability to just pull off a game against us. The Timberwolves, I mean, like I said, it just depends on how they're feeling. If they got that seeding position by that last game, maybe we get some slack cut right there. We can go ahead and get an easy win right there. But, yeah, this Clippers team right here, man. I mean, there's been issues with Kawhi's knee, which is not surprising, 0%. He's had a little bit, what is it? Not inflated knee? I don't think that's a thing.
Inflammation. Inflammation.
Yeah. Talking about fucking economics about a dude's knee. But, no, I completely agree. I think that this is going to be a really, really interesting stretch for us. Being a team that we didn't necessarily want it to come down to the wire towards the end of the season, as we had much higher expectations, being in that four seed minimum. It's just we get what we can take at this point. I just hope guys can continue to stay healthy on this squad. That's really what we're looking for in the playoffs if we want to have any shot to outshoot Denver in a 7-game series. So, man, we'll see. We shall see. Did you want to talk anything else about the Suns? It's been a little semi-depressing.
No,
semi-depressing.
I have something interesting that I wanted to bring up when I was looking at not even necessarily about the Suns, but when I was looking at the record against like winning teams, there were just some notable ones that jumped out at me. The Warriors are 18-30 against teams with winning records and still have a shot to make the playoffs, which is crazy. Wow. Another team that was surprising was the Knicks. The Knicks are 19-27 against winning teams. So that one really surprised me. I just thought that was surprising. You'd think that would be a team that would just that they were actually competing, but I guess not as much as we hoped. And then 2 teams that were like the Celtics are 32-13. The Thunder are 28-18. So those are just some numbers that jumped out. I was looking at it. The Knicks one definitely surprised me the most.
Yeah, that one's the most surprising to me too. I mean, I guess they do play Brooklyn 4 times. They're playing those Detroit and Wizard teams at least 2 times throughout the year. So I mean, they do got that side of the spectrum. But man, I did not expect that at all, especially with the amount of hype that they've been getting this year. Didn't really come across
That's
it.
what I'm saying. And he made your second team All NBA.
Yeah,
Despicable.
Fuck you, bro. But yeah, I mean, anything else on this conference standings right here? I know we beat it like a dead horse, and we're probably going to continue to just a little bit in the last couple games.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll have a better sense tomorrow, depending on how this Clippers game goes. We'll see how we're feeling.
Could be big. All right, so moving on to the next thing, kind of the meat and potatoes of this episode is what we've learned about this NBA season. And TJ, I'm coming at you with 3 different things. I'm not sure how much you prepared for. How many
3
points do you have? 3 as well?
CP3.
Okay, CP3, perfect. Man, I guess I'll start it off then. And maybe starting off, maybe it's not something that we've necessarily learned, but more so confirmed. And that's the idea that Ime Udoka is really, really good at coaching. Obviously, there were additions around the roster with Fred VanVleet, Jeff Green, Dylan Brooks, and Jock Landale. But there's also been reports that Ime has like a heavy hand and influence in trying to make this team good now. Like he's the guy that's kind of getting in that GM office, being like, "Hey, let's go, let's get it cracking right away." And I think the impact is shown, especially considering that this team is already 16 games better than they were last year. I mean, they were an absolute joke. If you remember the conversations me and you were having, I mean, the Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. Rockets were just a team that wasn't even getting any screen time at all. For me, at least, I wasn't tapped in.
It was an affront to basketball. It was a crime. It was like watching an overtime elite game.
No, 100%. It's just like we're seeing the developments of this team. I personally think they have a really good shot at making it in the playoffs next year, especially if the Warriors can't get their shit together. I think this team at least is going to be in that play-in territory. We'll see what kind of developments are made between we've seen Alpi and Jalen Green. Because, like I said, me and you have been really down on Jalen Green, but ever since bro had his kid, I mean, he has just absolutely stepped it up in these past couple months. And I've been extremely impressed with this team. I mean, me and you were fans of him on the Celtics. I mean, we're not like Celtics homers or anything like that, but we really enjoyed what he did with that team, right?
Yeah, and I think rightfully so after he left Boston and then last season, they were still a very good team. I think rightfully so. People were like, okay, well, maybe Ime Udoka is not that great of a coach. You know, there was all the drama around it. Like, let's just stay away. And the Rockets kind of took a gamble by bringing him in, and it's 100% paid off. Yeah. I do think you're right to say, like, it probably has such a great impact, let alone even if the GM doesn't listen and makes some, like, drastic move to bring in a star. With your coach having that mindset of, like, no, we're here to compete and win games is so beneficial to these, like, young teams. Whereas, like, the guys that tried to, like, grow up through, like, the process Sixers era, where you're basically being told that we're supposed to lose, that just, like, seeps into your organization. And Ime Udoka is just like, no, from day one, we are here to win games, win championships. And it's just a great, like, kind of driving factor. And I think you're totally right about them going on a run next year, you know, making the playoffs as potentially a higher seed. And that kind of leads into my next point, if you're ready for my first thing I learned. Perfect segue.
Let's do it.
Mine is to beware of lightning in a bottle teams. So the teams that you see that just had a lot of really good health, or went on some crazy shooting runs, you know, got some good scheduling luck with the way things break down. The best example of this is like the Kings last year to this year, you know, just going on a tear. They're catching everybody's by surprise every night. And then the next year, it's just not quite as sweet as you'd expect because teams are prepared for you. So in terms of like looking forward to next season, like I think the Magic are a pretty prime candidate for this. I'd bet that their over-under, especially if they stay at that 3 seed, their over-under is going to be pretty high. And teams are going to be much more prepared for them and what they can do defensively and just being able to figure out them offensively because we already know that they need to kind of figure it out on that end. So that's something that I think, you know, has really jumped out to me this year is like, be ready for the teams to regress to the mean. So if they were way worse this year and, you know, or like the Grizzlies, they aren't going to be as bad as they are this year. Are they going to be as good as they were last year? Like they're another kind of lightning in a bottle team where just kind of if luck can break your way, you can go on a big run, even if it's maybe a little bit of fool's gold.
So I have a question. So does OKC fall under this category at all, or do you believe in the? You do?
So I had them listed down as like one of the questions, like, do the Thunder regress next year? Because it is a really big jump that they've taken from last year to this year. And SGA probably has gotten a lot more respect this year, specifically from like other players. Just he averaged 30 points a game last year. You're going to come in and be ready.
Yeah.
But Jalen Williams was catching people by surprise. Chet caught a lot of people by surprise still. So I think they're another team where, hey, they won 53 games this year and they still have a handful. They still have 4 left to play. So I think they could be another team where if they're over-under sitting a little higher than normally would like, or it's going to be a huge jump in wins again, just it might be safe to take that under.
No, yeah, I like it. I'm trying to think of other teams that kind of fit into this category. Like, does Indiana at all fall into this, or are they still kind of in that little threshold? Because they didn't make an absurd jump, and also we got the injuries of Tyrese. Do you think that this team, I mean, if that over-under, they set it this year at 500.
I think next season they could be a team that actually jumps.
Okay.
I think that's where they're more sitting at, because they're still, like you mentioned, the second half of the season, or since that Halliburton injury, they just have not been as good. They haven't had that same pop that they had early on. And, teams still think of them as like if you're playing the Pacers and you're Donovan Mitchell, you're thinking, oh, we're going to be running up and down all night. I might be able to get 70. Like, I'm going to get a ton of shots, ton of possessions. So next year, teams might still be thinking of them in that sense. And if they can buckle down on defense, if they can get 10% better on defense, that could be an extra like 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah, no, I like it. I thought they were one of the easiest over-unders this year. They was set at 500 this year, 41 games to win. And, I mean, that was the easiest money I think I've made. I think I put $25 on it. So, I mean, kudos to them. Trying to think, is there any other teams at the top of your head that you can think of that might be in that category? I'm trying to think, like, who's
and the reason that I wanted to segue in is because it's actually second on my list. I brought it up a little earlier because Houston is the number one. Next season, they're going to catch teams by surprise and jump up in the standings, I think. And they already caught a lot of teams by surprise this year. So, but they're going to be, even more competitive next year.
100%. I'm so excited. I know we're kind of intertwining both of those now at this point, but that Houston team next year, I'm so excited. Ime getting on Jabari Smith Jr.'s ass, getting the motor. He seems like a guy who can get the motor out of people the most. And I think Jabari Smith's the perfect guy to have that third option on like a really good team. He could really be that guy to just come in there. I hate to use the term, but muck it up, clean the glass. I think he could be very, very good. And I'm excited. That goes into my last point. So I'm gonna, in terms of how excited I am, but I'll go into my second one, kind of steering off in another direction. Still sticking with like kind of individual team, not necessarily the league as a whole, but the Kyrie and Luka experience seems like they've kind of figured it out, TJ. And we I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like we probably didn't expect it to, or especially considering that they didn't make the playoffs last year. I mean, if you look at their stats, they're 6th best defensive rating, 6th best offensive rating, 5th seed in a bloodbath West right now, and visually, their games look very pleasing to the eye when they're next to each other. And personally, I thought that this team was going to be very reliant on the Kyrie and Luka like mismatch minutes for Kyrie to go ahead and just take over for that second unit. And they do. They definitely do at points. But when they're together, it still looks like gorgeous out there. It looks fucking beautiful. And one of the things that really caught my eye was that they combined for 59.2 points per game with each other, which is, and this is the trivia question right here, TJ, the second most by 2 players in the merger. Can you guess who the first duo is? And this was definitely a time when you were tapped into watching basketball, so it's not some 80s, 90s players. I have two. It's kind of a similar combo guesses. In a way.
Okay, similar combo. I wanted to say Russ and KD.
Russ and KD. What was your other guess?
LeBron and D Wade.
Okay, so you're more similar with that first one right there. It's going to be in the 2019-2020 season.
2019-20.
This is a team I had no clue this duo was the most in post-merger history, because there's plenty of like Wilt and like Elgin Baylor, Jerry West and stuff like that. But post-mergers in the 2019-2020 season.
It's not 2019-2020. So KD had already left the Warriors. He was hurt that season. That's the
still late Western Conference.
They're in the West. They were above. Shit, I don't know. I don't know.
It is going to be Harden with 34 and Russ with 27, combining for 61.5 points.
Wow.
I had no clue. Do you remember that at all? Like,
No,
was that
I don't
even a
remember it
graphic
being
that
that
was
good.
shown?
I don't remember.
That's insane.
Is that the season that Russ was traded, though?
That was traded onto the team?
Yeah.
Like midway through, you're saying?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
No,
it wasn't.
No,
it
yeah,
was,
he was off season. Yeah, he was in the off season. Damn,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That's
I
bananas.
did
That
not.
does not
I
get
did.
enough
I
love.
did not realize that was because it just ended so poorly. It was one season of
did.
those guys together. Like that shit was a joke. And I liked
Yeah,
it. That
especially
team
in
was
that
hella
bubble.
fun in 2. I loved playing with them in 2K because you put Russ at the 5. They literally didn't have a set. Oh, you would just tear people up. I loved it.
But yeah, that was my point right there. It's just Kyrie and Luka look so good this year. I mean,
a good one.
I know we're not supposed to be pro Mavericks guys at all, but it's hard not to appreciate both of those dudes' games. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, I think, we were both way down on them going into the season, and rightfully so, the way they closed out last year once they added Kyrie, and they hadn't done a lot to change things, except Derek Lively has been absolutely amazing for everything that they need to do. Yeah, it really is impressive, them turning around and just actually kind of playing like a true contender at this point.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with them, and it definitely learned to not count out Kyrie Irving when it comes to playing basketball.
I know,
if he's
it only
gonna
took
be
him
there,
6 fucking years.
I know if he's gonna be there, like let's go.
No, 100%. Yeah, no, I'm super excited to see this team. I mean, I could really. I don't know if this is just recency bias, TJ, but like I could really see them putting up a fight with somebody. I mean, we've seen Luka Doncic in the playoffs before just decimate those
Like,
Clippers teams.
They ain't scared
I
of the
would love-
Clippers.
Fuck to
Luka's
them.
not
No,
scared of the
if they
Clippers.
matched up
Come
again,
on.
bro, if they match
Yeah.
up again, I might take Dallas over LA.
No, I might too, especially the way that things have looked and the way the Clippers have looked to close out the season. No, they're not.
100%.
Like the Maverick, they could beat the Thunder. They could beat the Timberwolves. And honestly, Luka, people, second, third best player on the planet, depending on how you feel about Giannis. Like he could go toe to toe with Jokic and win a series.
Oh.
You're gonna tell me?
Oh,
Like,
talk
It's
to
possible. It's possible.
Talk
This could be a Luka legacy year, and we didn't even know it.
Oh my God, bro! Imagine all the conversations that are gonna be had with MVP if he gets to the finals this year.
Oh, it's gonna be toxic. It is gonna be. It's already started. People freaking out. How is Luka not the MVP? Look at these stats from Jokic's first MVP. It's like, hey, why don't we compare him to Jokic this fucking season? Because it's this MVP, guys.
Yeah, 100%. And last time I checked, Luka doesn't have his 2 best players injured the whole year and leading to
Literally.
48 wins. Last time I checked.
Bogus.
Hey, shout out Dante Exum, All-Star next year. No, I'm playing. All right, next point, TJ.
Is that teams need a floor general. I think all the real contenders have an adult in the room that it just gets guys involved and can call them an offense. The Timberwolves, they got Mike Conley to do that. Nuggets
Underrated.
with Jokic and Murray. OKC with Shea. The Clippers with Harden. Dallas with Luka. The Celtics, for them, it's effectively Derek White that is kind of that role with them. The Bucks with Dame, and it just goes on and on. But it's guys that have played point guard their entire lives. And whatever and like if you look at those Warriors teams, I would call Draymond the point guard of those teams in a lot of ways. But he had played that role, that connective screener, passer his entire life. And I think that it's worked in basketball for 77 years. It's going to still work. Like you can't changing guys' positions at this level. It just doesn't make sense, especially when they've already well into their careers. Just making Book be a full-time point guard was just a terrible decision because he has played shooting guard his entire life, and that is what he is best at. And there's a reason. There's a reason for having these sort of positions, even if they're a little bit more malleable today than they've ever been. But you still need that guy to fill that floor general space to keep guys involved.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just like you said, just looking historically, and I don't care how malleable the positions get, you do need that floor general. And even asking Bradley Beal, I know there's conversation whether it's going to be Booker or Bradley Beal. And how are you going to take a guy who's 30 years old that was averaging 30 on a really bad Wizards team to just completely shift his role and become a defensive anchor at the top of the key and be a facilitator? I mean, that's just a hard ask of anybody. I don't care who you are. I mean, unless you're the LeBron James of the world. I mean, that's the only case that I can make for that.
It's literally trying to teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, and it's just not going to work.
Bradley Beal has made $1 billion playing basketball this same way, and now we're expecting him to change. When it's really a situation, I know he waived the no trade clause and everything sounded good at the start, but it wasn't. It wasn't like these guys came together and knew there were going to be sacrifices that need to be made. They came together and just said, "Oh, this is going to be sweet. We're just going to roll through people."
Yeah, bucket squad exclusively.
Yeah.
Let's get buckets out here. No, I 100% agree, and it is scary as a Suns fan, just especially considering how tight we are with contracts and everything like that, and especially the Suns going to want to keep Grayson Allen, and he's gonna cost money. His contract's up at the end of the year. He's gonna have an absolutely phenomenal season, even if he wasn't shooting the ball lights out last night. I mean, throughout this season, he has been a sleeper pick for one of the best role players in the league. Is there any other team in the league right now that just straight up doesn't have a point guard? Like, even if you go out through like the whole Western Conference of teams who are competent, maybe you'll find like. But even shit, you look at the Wizards, they got Tyus Jones. Fuck.
The closest thing you could say is maybe you could be like the Magic would need a better point guard, but even then, like that, they still have guys that fill that role, or at least like trying their best. Like
guys like Markelle Fultz that came into the league as a
we just wasted a roster spot on Isaiah Thomas because we want to have a fucking feel good story. Get the fuck out of here. It was probably because the other Isaiah Thomas just told Ishbia like, "Hey, we should sign him. Like that'd be really fun."
Yeah,
he could squat in front of the bench and act like he wants to get in the game.
It's fucked up, but it's real. All right, so going on to a more positive note, my last one that I had right here is I think we learned finally, and it's becoming more universally accepted, that the NBA is the best it's ever been, and it's only going to get better with these future squads. I mean, with the whole we're done with the 90s argument that we had in the last couple weeks or month and a half, it finally seems like most people are on board with the idea that this is the most skilled and talented the league has ever been. I mean, I've had old heads I've directly encountered saying that they're coming to terms with at least the aspect of the game. They might still argue that they miss when the league you could clothesline somebody and it's only a regular foul, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, it makes sense. I mean, this is the best era in terms of talent. It just, better technology for health, for learning how to get better, for how to approach the journey of making it to the NBA. And then you also throw in the fact that there's so many of these young teams that are already so good. And we've already touched on them. But, the third-seeded OKC Thunder, the third-seeded Orlando Magic, the Timberwolves' main piece is a guy in his early 20s. The Rockets, I mean, their pieces are so young and they look amazing, like they're about to be on the up-and-up trajectory. Halliburton's in his early 20s. Luka and Tatum are only 25 and 26. And I haven't even mentioned the alien that's over there in San Antonio. It's just really exciting to see, and I'm happy my future kids that they're going to have these guys to watch as they hit their primes in their early 30s. I mean, it's just awesome experience. I'm so happy for the NBA, especially with the new rule change that they're kind of implementing some nights and some nights not, of just allowing things to be a little bit more physical. I hope they can keep that up and it doesn't cause any more injuries, which turns into people bitching about, oh, we're losing money, blah, blah, blah. We need to make sure we're going back to free throws so we can show the Kia commercial for the 5th time in the same fucking free throw. So I'm just really excited for the future of the league, and I'm excited that people are coming to terms with how good we are.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear what you're saying. It is by far, like, the talent is way better than it ever has been. I think it's maybe a little tricky to say that it's just like we're in the golden age of the NBA. Just when you look at like things like viewership, like that part of it is like the NBA has some real problems that they need to fix. And it starts with like actually making the regular season a competitive event that people don't want to watch. Like we don't want this turned into MLB I'll throw an MLB game on, but you can't be locked into 162 and you can't really be locked into 82. So while I do agree the players and like the product is as good as it ever has been, although I still have my own gripes with, like ball movement and the ISO, and I kind of have some old head tendencies when it comes to certain types of basketball. But the NBA, while having some problems looking forward, it's challenges that are going to be exciting to be able to, go face and hopefully conquer. And, who knows what happens with the NFL. Maybe we can, make a run at them in the next 50.
Yeah, the next 50 years is honestly the timeline that we have to look at.
Yeah.
I do think obviously it's been talked about, but the social media aspect is so hard for so many kids just having not, like I said, I'm not trying to be old head here, but the low attention span aspect of it all, it's hard to watch a game over and over where there's a bunch of, dead balls going through. But I mean, I do still think at the end of the day, it's better than football in terms of that aspect. I mean, you look at the amount of actual game time being played in the NFL compared to the actual game time being played in the NBA, and it's just significantly better. I mean, like I said, that's a subjective opinion at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
it does feel like
I think oddly enough, though, the short attention span kind of works with football because you do only watch football in like 30-second segments, and then it goes on to something else. So you could more conceivably be like scrolling TikTok and still watch the entire NFL game, like see all the action.
Yeah.
Where the NBA, although it is faster paced and it can keep your attention a little bit longer, it needs to, I think the free throws was the biggest thing that took people away from the game. So
you're
I
asking for
hear
more
what you're
free
saying.
throws so people
No.
can be on the phone.
Less free throws. Just we need continuous action.
Let's go the soccer route. Let's go. You can
Let's
inbound
go.
the ball right away, right when you get the ball. Let's keep it pushing.
Running clock. Let's go.
So what's your last point, TJ?
That to build a championship team, it needs to start with the draft. I don't think I think we've learned too many times over the past 5 years, 10 years that you can't just slap a team together and then expect them to go out and compete at the absolute highest level and win a championship. The Clippers are kind of looking to maybe change that narrative this year, but just look how long it took to finally get those things all on the same page. The Nets
5
fell
years.
apart. The Suns are scraping by right now, and the problem is you'd say, oh, well, the Clippers figured out in 4 years. All of our guys are already older than those Clippers were when you first slapped them together. And then when you look at the real legitimate contenders, the Celtics drafted their main guys, made some trades from guys that they drafted to bring in, a Drew Holiday, get Porzingis, or they signed however they got Porzingis. But it's still the main components of the team were drafted. The Nuggets, same exact thing. They traded for Aaron Gordon, but the rest is really homegrown. OKC, they honestly got lucky trading for SGA and him turning out to be who he is. Like, nobody could have expected this, no matter how astute of an evaluator you are.
Doc Rivers did.
Doc Rivers knows everything 10 years after it happens. He's just now implementing the three-pointer with the Bucks. He's like, guys, have you heard about this thing?
So I always knew threes were worth more than two. I knew it.
And then you look at out of the last 15 champions, only 4 teams weren't primarily built through the draft. So it's the Heat twice with LeBron.
Yep.
The Raptors.
But they had D-Wade. I mean,
exactly.
D-Wade at the end of the day.
Exactly. And then the Raptors, which had the entire foundation and just swapped one guy in. And then the Lakers in 2020, which we all know that came together. If you want to put an asterisk, you can. I do. I think it's a joke of a championship. Just like the Dodgers 2020 championship. LA just can't win a real one. It's just impossible. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's my point, is like when there is the buy-in, and the Heat specifically, this is another point I wanted to bring up. The players put that together and knew the sacrifices that were going to have to come by playing together. With the Warriors, it was Draymond that made the call to KD to bring him in, and he knew what sacrifices were going to be needed to be made to win a championship. And with this Suns situation, we mentioned it before, it felt like these guys all just showed up and were like, oh, this is just going to be cool. Like, it was a very laid-back, laissez-faire approach to the season as we kick things off. It wasn't like nobody was talking about the sacrifices or the effort that's going to need to be. We're all going to need to play way better on defense because we don't have, the same role players that we used to. Things like that, which I just think wasn't brought into the calculation with Matt Ishbia and James Jones this year. So hopefully they're able to learn their lesson and maybe recoup some draft picks in the next few years.
Oh, yeah, that's the unfortunate future that we have to look forward to. You're telling me you didn't want the invisible hand of the basketball gods and capitalism to make this team work? You don't think that was going to work with the Suns?
I do not think that was going to work with the Suns. Let's just, hey, chill out, man. We don't need any regular cap space, schmap space. I don't know. Luxury tax? Never heard of her.
Ever heard of my mortgage company that might be going under?
Exactly. So who fucking knows, man? Who knows?
Exciting times for Suns fans. But thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Bright Now Podcast, episode 37 in the books. We will see you guys Saturday, but make sure, as always, to have a phenomenal rest of your day.